He always believed that dreams were something you kept safe, something you held close like a fragile flame cupped between shaking hands. But somewhere along the way, he forgot that rule. He let people in too quickly, too deeply, too trustingly. And once the wrong person knew what you wanted most, they knew exactly where to hit you. Evan learned that the hard way. He grew up in a quiet town outside Nashville in a house that always felt too small for the size of his thoughts. He had this habit of staring out windows, imagining a life that didn't quite exist yet. His mom used to joke that he lived half in the clouds, but she said it with pride. She believed in him the way mothers do, blindly, stubbornly, endlessly. His father, on the other hand, thought dreams were a luxury for people who didn't know real problems. Be realistic, he'd say. Life doesn't care what you want. But Evan did care, deeply, and that made him different. He wasn't loud about his dreams at first. He held them quietly, protected them like secrets. But after he turned 24, everything started changing. He found motivational videos online, started reading books about success, started imagining a life where he wasn't trapped in the same patterns the people around him were stuck in. And for the first time, he felt hope. Real hope. The kind that wakes you up early and keeps your blood warm. And that's when he made his first mistake. He told people, not just anyone, his closest friends, his coworkers, his cousins, people who smiled at him, nodded at him, told him he was inspiring. And because he believed they meant it, he let them deeper. He told them about wanting to start his own online business, about wanting to leave his job, about wanting to build something that actually mattered. He thought sharing his plans would make him stronger. Instead, it made him vulnerable. It started small. A joke here, a comment there, someone laughing because he skipped a night out to work on a project, someone else rolling their eyes when he talked about saving money. They weren't evil, they were just comfortable. And comfortable people don't like when someone tries to climb out of the life they've accepted. It reminds them of everything they've settled for. But then came the real problem. Her name was Lila. She wasn't his girlfriend, not really, but she was the closest thing to warmth he had at the time. She liked being adored, liked the idea of potential, liked the glow that came from standing next to someone who dreamt big, even if she never planned to support him. She encouraged him at first, told him he was destined for more, told him she could see it in his eyes. And because he wanted to believe her so badly, he told her everything, his ideas, his fears, his milestones, his excitement, every late-night thought, every small victory, every fragile hope. And she listened, carefully, too carefully, because deep down, while she liked the idea of him becoming someone, she was terrified he actually would. If he grew, he'd outgrow her. And she knew it. It didn't matter whether it was true. It only mattered that she believed it. When someone fears your rise, they don't always sabotage you loudly. Most often it's quiet, subtle, a gentle pull instead of a hard shove. You're stressing too much, she'd say. You work too hard. You should relax. You're taking this too seriously. Then it got sharper. Why do you think you can do this? Plenty of people try and fail. You're not like those successful guys. You're dreaming too big. The first time she said that, something inside him cracked, but it didn't fully break. Not yet. He kept working anyway because he knew dreams didn't grow in the comfort zone. He knew ambition demanded sacrifice. He knew the world didn't hand out miracles. You had to build them with your own hands. And for a short moment, it looked like things were going right. He finished a full plan for his online business. He built the website. He set up the products. He even created his first ad campaign. And when he saw the first customer purchase come through, even though it was only $18, he felt like the universe had whispered, "See, you can do this." He told Lila immediately. He shouldn't have. She didn't congratulate him. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she frowned and asked, $18? That's it? The flame inside him flickered. "Well, yeah," he said softly, "but it's a start." "And what if it ends there?" she shot back. That was the moment he realized she wasn't rooting for him. She was rooting for him not to surpass the version of him she liked, the one who needed her, the one who reached for her more than he reached for his future. But he pushed that thought away because he wasn't ready to face it yet. He kept trying, kept building, kept improving. And just when he thought he was gaining momentum, everything collapsed. It started with a rumor at work. One of his coworkers, someone he once called a friend, told their boss Evan was running a side business on work hours. It wasn't true, not even close, but the accusation alone was enough to get him written up. Then someone else whispered to their manager that he wasn't committed anymore. Another lie. And there was only one person he had confided in about wanting to quit his job someday. Lila. When he confronted her, she cried, told him she didn't say anything, told him people were just jealous, told him she cared, but lies smell different when they come from someone you trusted. They leave something sour in the air. 2 weeks later, he got fired. The company said it was due to declining performance, but he knew the truth. Someone had poisoned the air around him. Someone who knew every detail of his plans, his timeline, his workload, his stress. Someone he loved too loudly, losing his job. Should have destroyed him, but it didn't. The fire inside him dimmed, but it didn't die. He felt numb, angry, betrayed, but something else too. Awake. Pain does that sometimes. It shows you the truth you tried so hard not to see, and the truth was simple. He had shared his goals with the wrong people. He had given the world a map to his weakest spots, and they used it. He didn't talk to anyone for days. Not his friends, not his cousins, not even Lila, who kept texting, calling, apologizing, but in a way that felt more like she was protecting herself than trying to repair him. He ignored it all. He spent 3 nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling in the dark, feeling the weight of everything he had lost pressing down on his chest. His job, his confidence, his trust, his belief that the people around him actually wanted him to win. The silence hurt, but it was honest. And honesty was something he hadn't given himself in a long time. On the 4th morning, he got up before sunrise. He walked outside barefoot, letting the cold ground force him back into reality. The sky was soft pink, the air still, the world quiet in a way that made him feel like maybe, just maybe, he could begin again. He sat on the porch step, hands clasped, eyes tired but clear, and for the first time he asked himself a question he had avoided for years. Why am I telling people so much? He said it out loud. And the words floated in the cold air like something new, something heavy, something true. He thought about his parents, his father telling him dreams were useless, his friends telling him goals were unrealistic, his coworkers laughing when he talked about wanting a different life. Lila pushing him away from ambition every time it made her uncomfortable. He realized something simple but brutal. People don't sabotage your dreams because they're evil. They sabotage them because your dreams remind them of their fears. His dreams made them face the parts of themselves they had abandoned, the versions of them that once wanted more, the versions of them that failed, the versions of them that never tried. And instead of dealing with their own disappointment, they tried to shrink his. Maybe they didn't even know they were doing it. Maybe it was instinct, jealousy, insecurity, or fear that he would change faster than they could keep up. But it didn't matter. The result was the same. His dreams weren't safe with them. He took a slow breath, letting the cold morning settle into him, grounding him. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. Not like a dramatic explosion, not like a movie moment, but a quiet, steady click, like a lock turning. He realized he didn't need anyone to understand him. He didn't need anyone to cheer for him. He didn't need anyone to approve of his dreams. He just needed to stop giving people the power to destroy what he hadn't even built yet. Later that week, he got a message from Lila again. "Can we talk? I miss you." He stared at the screen for a long time. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel longing. He didn't feel the old familiarity tugging at him. What he felt was clarity. He finally understood that love wasn't supposed to dim you. It wasn't supposed to clip your wings or question your fire. Love should make you stronger, not smaller. He typed a single sentence: "I need space to grow." And he didn't explain. He didn't defend himself. He didn't soften it. He hit send and put the phone face down. He expected to feel guilt, but instead he felt lighter. And once the noise of other people faded, something else rose up in him, something quiet, steady, and powerful. Determination. He opened his laptop. He looked at the half-finished plans, the digital scraps of a dream he had once believed in, and instead of feeling hurt, he felt hunger. He redesigned the website from scratch. He studied new marketing strategies. He watched tutorials until his eyes burned. He planned out a full structure for turning one customer into 100, then 1,000. For 2 months, he barely spoke to anyone. He went for morning walks, worked long nights, saved every dollar, learned skills he didn't know he needed. And something interesting happened. The less he talked about his goals, the faster they grew. His first big sale came at 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday, then 5 more over the weekend, then 15 the next week, then 50. He didn't tell a soul. He didn't post about it. He didn't brag about it. He didn't seek validation he once craved. Silence became his strategy. Privacy became his strength. Discipline became his protection. He finally understood you can't lose what other people don't know exists. But success has a scent to it. A quiet hum, a glow. And even though he never said a word, people around him started noticing small things. He looked different, calmer, sharper, more focused. He moved differently, purpose in every step. He carried himself like someone who had built something on his own, in the dark, with no witnesses and no applause. And people felt it. Lila reached out again. "You seem different lately. Happier. What's going on?" He smiled at the message, not out of spite, but out of peace. "Just working on myself," he replied. That was all she got. His old co-workers acted confused when they saw him with new confidence. They tried to guess what was happening, asked him questions, joked around, but he stayed vague. "Just figuring things out," he'd say. That was all they got. His cousins tried to pull him back into the old routines, the old conversations, the old doubts. He didn't fight them. He just stopped feeding their curiosity. "That's personal," he'd say with a nod. That was all they got. What people didn't know was that his business was growing faster than he expected. Orders were consistent. Reviews were positive. Revenue climbed. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he was chasing something impossible. He felt aligned. And the universe has a strange way of responding to alignment. When you focus quietly, work silently, and build privately, opportunities start appearing like stepping stones in places you once saw only mud. He wasn't rich yet. He wasn't famous. He wasn't even close to where he knew he could be, but he had something he never had before: control. And that meant everything. One night, after finishing a long sprint of work, he sat by the window, the same way he did when he was a kid, and looked at the city lights. But this time he didn't feel trapped by the distance between him and his future. He felt connected to it. He finally understood that silence wasn't loneliness. It was protection, and privacy wasn't isolation. It was fuel. He whispered to himself, "Stop telling people your goals and start becoming them." And for the first time in a long time, he believed every word. Evan thought silence would protect him, and it did. But nobody tells you that silence can also sharpen you. It forces you to hear your own mind clearly, without the noise, without the opinions, without the judgments. And as the days passed, that quiet space in his life became something else entirely: a mirror. Every morning he woke up with a strange mix of fear and excitement in his stomach. Fear that he might fail again. Excitement that this time nobody would know if he did. Failure in private felt different, easier to survive, easier to rise from. Without eyes watching, mistakes didn't feel like death. They felt like practice. He started tracking everything: his profits, his sleep, his habits, his focus. He wrote down every lesson he learned each day, every win, every loss. He stopped waiting for motivation and started building discipline. Motivation was a spark. Discipline was the firewood that kept the flame alive through wind, storm, and doubt. He wasn't chasing a dream anymore. He was becoming the kind of person who could handle one. But life has a way of testing you just when you think you're doing well. Right when Evan hit his first real streak of success, something happened that forced him to face everything he thought he had escaped. It started with a message from his cousin, Mark. "Yo, bro, heard you're doing something online now. What's the deal? Teach me." Evan stared at the message. Months ago, he would have been excited. He would have explained everything, every plan, every strategy, every fragile piece of progress. But now, something in him hesitated. Not out of selfishness, but out of instinct. Mark was the type who jumped into things and quit just as fast. The type who bragged before he even started. The type who talked louder than he worked. And Evan had learned a painful, expensive truth. You can't share dreams with people who don't respect the process. He typed slowly, still early, still learning. "I'll share when I'm ready." Mark responded with a thumbs up emoji, but Evan could almost hear the judgment behind it. That old, familiar feeling tried to creep in. The need to explain himself, to prove something, to justify his silence. But he didn't. He set the phone down and went back to work. Over the next few weeks, his business grew steadily, not explosively, but consistently. He upgraded his website again, improved his product pages, streamlined his email responses. Every night he read a little more, studied a little deeper, practiced a little harder, and with each step he felt more like himself, maybe for the first time ever. Then came the night that shifted everything. He was sitting in a local coffee shop, laptop open, headphones on, completely lost in his work. The shop was quiet, dim, with soft yellow lights hanging from the ceiling. It was the kind of place where people read books, whispered quietly, and moved slowly. Evan liked it there. Nobody knew him. Nobody asked questions. But someone walked in who did know him, Leela. He didn't notice at first. He didn't even look up. But he felt that strange heaviness in the air, the kind that happens when old wounds walk into the same room as your new life. She saw him before he saw her. And when she did, her breath caught in her chest. He looked different. Not just physically, although he had lost weight, gained definition, carried himself with a confidence she had never seen before. But the real difference was in his energy. He looked focused, grounded, alive in a way she couldn't ignore. She walked over slowly, hesitating, unsure if she should break the invisible wall his silence had built. "Evan?" she said softly. He looked up, surprised but calm. "Hey," he said, voice steady. She sat down across from him without asking. Old habits, and he let her. "Just this once. You've been gone," she said. "I needed time," he replied. "You look different. Working on myself." She studied him like she was seeing a stranger wearing the face of someone she used to know. "What are you working on?" she asked, eyes drifting to his laptop. And for a moment he almost felt the old pull, the instinct to tell her everything, to share his progress, to open the door she once slammed shut. But he didn't. Instead, he closed the laptop gently. "Just projects," he said. "Can I know what kind?" "That's personal." The words were simple, but they carried weight. A boundary he never used to have, a wall he never used to hold. Lila swallowed hard. "You know," she whispered. I didn't mean to hurt you, he nodded once. Not forgiving, not accusing, just acknowledging. I know. She waited for more. An explanation, a comfort, a pathway back into his world. But he didn't give her one. Silence stretched between them. Not hostile, not warm, just real. She finally spoke again. I miss the way you trusted me, she said. Evan looked at her, eyes calm but honest. I trusted everyone, he answered. That was the problem. She looked down. Her voice cracked a little when she spoke again. Do you hate me? No, he said. I just learned from you. The truth settled between them like a soft, heavy blanket. Lila blinked back tears, but he didn't reach out this time. He didn't rescue her from her guilt. He wasn't hers to rescue anymore. Maybe one day, she whispered, you'll tell me what you're working on. He shook his head gently. No, he said. I'm done telling people my goals. And for the first time, she understood what that meant. She wasn't part of his future. She stood up slowly, gave him a small, fragile smile, and left the coffee shop. Evan watched her go, not with sadness, not with anger, but with acceptance. Some chapters don't end with slamming doors. They end quietly with understanding. And once she was gone, something inside him settled. He opened his laptop again and kept going. The next morning, Evan woke up with a strange calm inside him. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels earned. Seeing Lila again didn't reopen old wounds. It confirmed how far he had come. He realized something important. Healing wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about no longer needing to go back to it. His focus sharpened. His energy changed. And his discipline grew even stronger. Weeks passed and his business kept rising, slow but steady. Evan learned that real growth wasn't glamorous. Most of it happened in silence, late at night, early in the morning, in moments nobody saw. And the more he worked, the more he felt the gap widen between who he used to be and who he was becoming. But progress doesn't come without pressure. The universe tested him again, harder this time. It began with a phone call from his mother. Evan, sweetheart, your father wants to talk to you. He froze. His father never wanted to talk, not unless something was wrong. And Evan wasn't ready for the kind of judgment that always came with those conversations. What happened? He asked. You'll see when you get here, she said softly. That tone, the soft, careful one, told him more than the words did. When he arrived at his childhood home, he found his father sitting at the kitchen table, shoulders heavy, face tired. There was a stack of medical papers next to him, folded neatly, too neatly. His mother stood near the sink, hands trembling as she wiped the same counter twice. Dad? Evan said carefully. His father looked up, and for the first time in Evan's life, he saw fear in the man's eyes. I got laid off, his father said. The words hit like a punch. And your mother's hours got cut. Things are tight. The silence after that felt thick enough to suffocate. Evan had never seen his father look small, but in that moment the man who once seemed carved from stone looked like weathered clay. I just need a little help until I get back on my feet, his father added, clearing his throat. His mother stepped in quickly. Just for a month or two, honey. We don't want to be a burden. Evan's chest tightened. They didn't know about his business. They didn't know he was finally making money. They didn't know he had savings set aside. They didn't know anything because he had stopped telling people his goals, his struggles, his wins. His silence protected him. But now it felt like a wall between him and the two people who raised him. How much do you need? He asked gently. His father hesitated, pride fighting desperation. 5,000, he said quietly. Evan didn't even blink. I'll take care of it, he said. His mother gasped softly. Evan, that's too much. It's okay, he cut in. You've helped me my whole life. I can do this. But as he drove home later, something heavy sat in his stomach. Not because of the money. He could afford it. The business had been profitable enough. He had enough savings to manage. What bothered him was the realization that he had outgrown the version of himself his parents still saw. They thought he was struggling. They thought he was lost. They thought he was fragile. They didn't know he had become something stronger, something steadier, something real. They didn't know he had built a life in silence, and for the first time he wondered if his privacy was becoming isolation. The next day, he made the transfer. His father called him, voice choked, thanking him in the quietest way a proud man knows how. His mother cried, and for a moment Evan allowed himself to feel grateful. Grateful that he could show up for them the way they had once shown up for him, but life wasn't done testing him. 3 days later, he received an unexpected email. Subject: Proposal for partnership. Evan frowned. He opened it. The sender was a name he didn't expect. Daniel Ross, a former coworker, the same coworker who had joked about Evan's little business dream, the same one who laughed the loudest, the same one who whispered the rumor that got him in trouble at work. The email was polished, almost too polite. "Hey, Evan, I've noticed you've been doing some really impressive stuff online." Evan stiffened. How did he know? "And I've been researching ways we might collaborate. I have connections, investors, and ideas that could really help you scale." He kept reading. "I think you and I could make something big. Let's meet." Evan sat back, jaw tight. It clicked instantly. Someone had been watching, someone had been paying attention, someone had noticed his silence, and worse, noticed his success. He opened his social apps, his website backend, his analytics. Nothing showed any public signs of growth. He had been careful, very careful, but the pattern was there. More sales, larger orders, new customers. Someone on the inside must have talked, maybe a supplier. Maybe someone saw him at the post office more often. Maybe people noticed changes he didn't realize were visible. But the how didn't matter. What mattered was the intention. Daniel didn't want to collaborate. He wanted access control credit. People always come back when they sense opportunity. Evan didn't respond immediately. He closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and let the silence settle around him. A younger version of him would have said yes out of fear. Fear of missing a chance, fear of staying small, fear of doing everything alone. But not anymore. He remembered why he stopped telling people his goals, because when the wrong eyes see your progress, they don't cheer, they calculate. After an hour, he finally typed, "Thank you, but I'm not interested." He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He didn't negotiate. He hit send and felt free. But the freedom didn't last long because Daniel wasn't someone who took no easily. And this time, the retaliation would come quietly and dangerously. The first sign that something was wrong came 2 days later. Evan woke up, made coffee, and opened his laptop to check his orders. Normally, mornings were steady, 5 to 10 new sales. But today, nothing. 0. Not even a click. That never happened. He refreshed the page, then again, and again. Still nothing. A cold uneasiness crept up his spine. He checked his ads. All active. Checked his website, online. Checked his payment processor, no errors. But something felt off, like the air had shifted around him and he was the only one who noticed. Then, an hour later, he got an email. Order refund request. He frowned. Then another, and another. 5 refund requests in 20 minutes. It made no sense. The products were delivered. Customers were happy. Reviews were glowing. Why would this happen? He opened one of the emails. The reason box said, "Did not receive product." Evan froze. That wasn't possible. He had shipped everything himself. He had tracking numbers, proof, receipts. The postal confirmations were all there. His heart pounded as he logged into the shipping platform, and his stomach dropped. Every tracking number suggest was marked as return to sender, all of them, every single one. Packages he had dropped off himself, packages he had seen scanned, Packages that should have been on their way, returned, returned, returned. It didn't feel like an accident, it felt like interference. He rushed to the post office with a box of tracking receipts. The woman behind the counter looked confused, then surprised, then uncomfortable. "These shouldn't have been returned," she said. "Someone placed a bulk stop transit flag. That only happens when someone requests it." "Who?" Evan asked, throat tight. She hesitated. "It would need to be someone with access, someone who knows your shipping history, someone who knows you personally, most likely, someone like a former coworker, someone like Daniel." A sinking feeling tore through him as he left the building. This wasn't a coincidence. It was retaliation. He drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. His old life had come back to haunt him, not because he failed, but because he dared to succeed without permission. Back at his apartment, he sat down, closed his eyes, and forced himself to breathe. He couldn't fall apart now. Not after everything he had rebuilt, not after the nights he sacrificed, not after the discipline he fought to form. Evan opened his laptop and began documenting everything. Dates, tracking numbers, refund requests, emails. Step by step, piece by piece, he built a timeline. If someone was trying to sabotage him, he needed proof. As the hours passed, he realized something disturbing. The interference wasn't clumsy. It wasn't petty. It was calculated. Every returned package happened on the same day, 2 days after he rejected Daniel's partnership offer. Every customer complaint came from an order processed on a specific date, one where Evan had delivered the packages to the same clerk he remembered seeing talking to someone outside, someone tall, someone with a familiar silhouette. A memory sparked. Daniel showing up at the post office months earlier during Evan's struggles, teasing him about playing businessman. Back then, Evan had laughed it off. Now he felt cold. That night, he didn't sleep. He paced the apartment, mind racing. He wasn't afraid of losing money. He could refund the customers. He could rebuild. What scared him was the realization that someone from his past was willing to tear his life down just to prove a point. His silence protected him. But it also hit him so well that no one knew what he was fighting alone. Just before dawn, another email notification chimed. Expecting another refund request, he opened it with a tight jaw. But it wasn't a customer, it was Daniel. Subject: "Let's talk again." Evan's pulse jumped. He clicked the message. "You might be running into some problems. I could help you fix them. I still think you and I could make something huge if you just work with me. Let me know if you've changed your mind." There it was. Not even hidden. Not subtle. A threat wrapped in fake concern. Daniel was telling him exactly what he needed to hear to confirm it. This wasn't sabotage born from jealousy. This was sabotage born from control. Evan stared at the screen, blood burning slow and steady. Once upon a time, he would have reacted emotionally. He would have confronted Daniel, snapped, yelled, tried to fight him with words. But that Evan was gone. He leaned back, closed the laptop, and whispered to himself, "This is why you don't tell people your goals." He pulled out his notebook, the one where he wrote lessons every night, and he scribbled 3 new lines. Protect your vision. Move quietly. Never negotiate with people who try to break what you built. He wasn't going to let Daniel win, but he also wasn't going to play his game. Instead, Evan spent the next 3 days studying business laws, seller protection rules, postal interference regulations, and online consumer policies. He documented everything. Screenshot every detail, compiled every piece of evidence, and when he was ready, he sent 3 emails, not to Daniel, to the shipping supervisor, to customer service headquarters, and to a small business legal advisor he found online. Then he waited. 2 days later, the response came back. The postal investigation confirmed that someone had manually flagged Evan's packages using an unauthorized override code. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a system error. It was interference, and only one person fit the timeline, the access pattern, and the motive. Daniel. The postal office launched a formal inquiry. Evan didn't have to fight him directly. He didn't have to stoop to pettiness. He didn't have to lose his dignity. He protected his business quietly, strategically, with proof instead of anger. And when his packages were released again, business returned immediately. Orders came back. Customers apologized. Refunds stopped. Sales surged. Evan didn't celebrate. He didn't brag. He didn't announce victory. He just worked, because now more than ever, he understood the truth. When you stop telling people your goals, you stop giving enemies the ammo to destroy them. And the world had no idea. Evan was just getting started. Evan didn't expect peace after what happened with Daniel. He didn't expect rest, comfort, or relief. But the days that followed were strangely quiet. Not the kind of silence he once feared, but the kind that comes after a storm, when the sky is still dark, but the wind finally settles. He spent hours working with a level of focus he had never felt before. Not manic, not desperate, just steady, controlled, intentional. And the more he built in silence, the more he began to see himself clearly. What he wanted, what he feared, what he was capable of. He had always thought goals required noise, announcement, validation, applause. But now, watching his life grow in private, he understood something deeper. Results were louder than any explanation he could give. Orders came in faster. His branding sharpened. His systems became smoother. And as his earnings climbed, he did something that surprised even him. He didn't upgrade anything, not his car, not his apartment, not his wardrobe. He stayed exactly as he was because comfort had betrayed him before and he wasn't going back. One night, sitting alone in his small apartment with only the hum of the refrigerator to keep him company, he opened a blank notebook page and wrote, "Discipline is lonely, but so is success." The words stayed on the page like a quiet truth he had always known but never spoken. He was becoming someone new, and the transformation wasn't loud, dramatic, or sudden. It was slow, like a muscle growing under constant tension, painful but powerful. But life didn't give him much time to settle into that growth. A new challenge was coming, one far more personal than anything he had faced before. It began with another call from his mother. "Sweetheart, your father hasn't been himself. I think he's depressed." Evan felt something twist inside. Him. His father. The man who once told him dreams were foolish, who believed suffering was just part of life, who treated ambition like a childish distraction, was unraveling. "What happened?" Evan asked. "He hasn't found a job. Nobody's hiring. And he's not talking to anyone." Evan closed his eyes. His parents were getting older. Their health wasn't the same. Their savings weren't strong. And for the first time in his life, he realized the truth adults try to outrun. Your parents don't stay invincible forever. He drove home that weekend, unsure of what he would find. When he walked through the door, his father was sitting on the couch staring at a muted television. The man who once filled the room with authority now felt deflated. "Dad?" Evan said softly. His father looked up, eyes tired but trying to hide it. "Oh. Hey, son, no strength, no firmness, just hollow politeness." Evan sat beside him. "You okay?" he asked gently. His father laughed, but the sound was dry, empty. "Never thought I'd be 58 and unemployed," he muttered. "Life's got a real sense of humor." Evan wanted to say something comforting, something hopeful, but nothing felt right. His father wasn't the type who would accept sympathy. He would take it as pity. And pity would break him faster than unemployment, so Evan chose honesty instead. "You spent your whole life taking care of us. Let someone take care of you now." His father stiffened. pride flaring just enough to show he was still alive beneath the defeat. I don't want handouts. It's not a handout, Evan said calmly. It's family. Silence hung between them. Then his father looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time in years, there was something in his eyes Evan had never seen before. Respect. How are you doing it? His father asked quietly. You lost your job. You had nothing. How did you bounce back this fast? Evan froze. He could lie. He could deflect. He could hide behind vague answers the way he hid from the world. But as he looked at the man who raised him, who worked himself to exhaustion so Evan could grow up in a home instead of a shelter, who taught him toughness even when it came out harsh, he realized something. Silence protects dreams. But family deserved truth. Still, he couldn't give details, not yet. Not everything. Not the fragile blueprint of his progress, not the early stage plans still forming, but he could give enough. I'm working on something, Evan said slowly. Something online. It's going well, but I'm still building. I can help while you get through this, but just give me time. Don't carry this alone. His father inhaled shakily. For a moment, he looked like a man trying to decide whether to break or stay composed. Finally, he nodded. All right. And in that simple word, years of distance softened. That weekend became a turning point. Evan didn't tell his parents everything, but he told them enough to ease their fear, enough to show he wasn't lost, enough to show they didn't need to worry anymore. But something else happened, something he didn't expect. His father started asking questions, real questions. How do online businesses work? What kind of products are you selling? What skills do you need for something like that? Could I learn it? At first, Evan wasn't sure how to feel. The old version of his father never would have asked these things. He would have mocked them, dismissed them, called them unrealistic. But now, he was curious, humbled, open, human. Evan realized something that made his chest tighten. People don't change until life forces them to, and sometimes the people who once crushed your dreams end up needing the strength you built from their doubt. He didn't share his exact strategies. He didn't show numbers. He didn't expose the guts of his system. But he taught his father the basics: market research, simple digital tools, mindset shifts, the idea of building instead of begging. Slowly, his father began to rise, not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily. And one night, after hours of helping him, Evan sat at his desk staring at his laptop when a realization hit him. This was why he couldn't tell the world his goals, not because everyone wished him harm, but because the wrong people would crush him before he could grow strong enough to carry others. Silence wasn't just protection for him, it was preparation for moments like this. Moments where he needed to be the strong one. Moments where his success wasn't for show, it was for survival. But as he strengthened his family, another storm was forming behind him, a quieter one, a darker one, one that wasn't rooted in sabotage, but in something far more dangerous. Envy disguised as support, and it was coming from someone he least expected. It began subtly, like a shadow moving at the corner of his vision. His cousin Mark started calling more often. At first it seemed harmless, friendly, curious. He asked how Evan was doing, how his parents were holding up, whether he needed help with anything. Evan didn't suspect anything. They grew up together. Their childhoods were tangled like roots. Mark had always been loud, reckless, unpredictable, but not malicious, at least not openly. One evening, Evan was packing orders at his kitchen table when Mark called again. "Bro, you've been ghosting me," he said. "What's going on with you?" "Just busy," Evan replied. Busy with what? There it was, the pressure slipping through. Evan wiped his hands on a towel. "Stuff I'm working on." "Come on, man," Mark insisted. "You can tell me. We're family." Family. The word felt heavier than it used to. "I'm building something," Evan said carefully. But it's still early. Yeah, but what exactly? Evan felt his chest tighten. It was a strange feeling, like his instincts were warning him, like something inside him whispered. Be careful. Just online work, he said simply. Mark exhaled loudly, clearly annoyed. You know, if you'd stop gatekeeping, maybe we could work together. I've been looking for something new, too. This was new. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't support. This was expectation. Evan kept his voice calm. I'm still figuring it out myself, Mark scoffed. Dude, you act like you're the only one trying to succeed. I've supported you, haven't I? Evan paused. Supported? Mark had laughed at him more than anyone, but Evan didn't argue. He just said, I'll let you know when I'm ready. Mark hung up without saying goodbye. And for the first time, Evan recognized the tone beneath the words envy, the kind that doesn't show as cruelty at first, the kind that hides in jokes, pressure, guilt, and expectation, the kind that pretends to cheer for you while watching your steps too closely. Over the next few weeks, Mark's behavior became more obvious. He accidentally showed up at Evan's parents' house whenever Evan visited. He asked pointed questions about money. He hinted about his own debts. He joked about Evan acting mysterious. He even tried to catch a glimpse of Evan's laptop screen during family dinners. The worst part? He didn't even realize he was doing it. Some people envy quietly, some envy loudly, and some envy unconsciously, acting out without understanding why. Evan didn't judge him. He just created distance. But envy, once awakened, doesn't like being ignored. That's when things escalated. One Saturday afternoon, Evan visited his parents to drop off groceries. When he stepped inside, his mother looked uneasy. His father avoided eye contact. Something was off. What's wrong? Evan asked. His mother sighed. Mark was here earlier. Evan's stomach tightened. Why? Checking on us, she said. He said he's worried about the family, and he asked about you. What did he ask? His father rubbed his forehead. He asked how you're making money, how you were able to help us, whether you're doing something risky. Evan closed his eyes. There it was, the thing he feared most. Not sabotage from strangers, not attacks from enemies, but doubts whispered inside his own home. He said he's just concerned, his mother added softly. Concerned, the most manipulative word envy ever hides behind. Evan inhaled slowly. What did you tell him? We told him the truth, his father said firmly, that it's none of his business. Relief washed over Evan, but so did something else. Sadness, because this was the price of growth. The storm your silence created in the minds of people who didn't understand your process. Later that evening, as he drove home through quiet streets, he replayed the conversation in his head. The feeling bothered him, not because Mark asked questions, but because he asked them from a place that felt wrong. People who love you ask to understand. People who envy you ask to uncover. And Mark wasn't looking for understanding, he was looking for leverage. When Evan got home, he found a message waiting for him from Mark. Bro, heard you've been talking to your parents about me. Why didn't you just tell me what you're doing? I could have helped. Evan stared at the message. Helped? That word didn't feel like an offer. It felt like a claim. He typed slowly. I'm working privately right now. When I'm ready, I'll talk. Mark replied instantly. This is messed up. You act like I'm the enemy. Evan sighed. He typed, You're not the enemy. I just need space. Mark didn't respond. But the silence that followed told Evan everything he needed to know. That night, Evan couldn't sleep. His mind kept circling back to one thought. Success exposes people, not just you. Them too. The ones who love you rise with you. The ones who envy you follow you. The ones who resent you try to pull you down. And sometimes they all live under the same roof during holidays. The next morning, Evan woke up early. Earlier than usual. He sat on the edge of his bed staring at the floor, feeling the weight of his own evolution. He had always thought his journey would challenge him. He never expected it to challenge the people around him. He poured himself coffee, opened his laptop, and stared at the screen, at everything he built quietly, painfully, patiently. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was he being selfish? Was he shutting people out too harshly? Was he wrong to protect his goals this fiercely? Then he remembered something. Nobody had protected him when he shared his dreams. Nobody warned him when jealousy sharpened. Nobody caught him when they sabotaged his first business. Nobody helped him rebuild. He had built everything he had from silence. Silence wasn't selfish. It was necessary. Later that week, an unexpected message arrived. This time, not from family, not from friends, not from old coworkers. It was from a stranger, a customer. "Hi, I just wanted to tell you, your product helped me more than you know. Thank you." Evan stared at the message. It was short, simple, honest, no envy, no demands, no expectations, just gratitude. And in that moment, he realized something. He wasn't building a business. He was building impact. Quietly, privately, patiently. And impact didn't need applause. Impact didn't need validation. Impact didn't need announcement. Impact needed purpose. That night, after fulfilling new orders, Evan leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and breathed in deeply. He had survived sabotage. He had survived envy. He had survived doubt. He had survived distance. But what was coming next would be the biggest storm yet, not from enemies, not from family, not from past coworkers, but from someone new, someone watching him, someone studying him, someone who saw his silence not as protection, but as a challenge, someone who wanted exactly what he had and didn't care what lines they crossed to take it, the person who would bring the next storm into year. Evan's life entered quietly without warning, like a shadow slipping through a half-open door. Her name was June. He didn't know her. He had never met her. But she knew him long before he ever knew her name. It started with an order, one of the many that came in each week. A simple purchase, nothing unusual. But after the package was delivered, she sent a message through his business contact form. "Loved the product. Thank you." Evan smiled slightly when he saw it. Praise still felt strange after years of doubt and criticism. He replied politely with a short message. "Thanks for your support." He didn't think anything of it. But June wasn't like his other customers. 2 days later, another message arrived. "I've been following your brand for a while. You're doing something different, something powerful." Evan frowned. He had no social media. He made no public updates. His website had no personal information. He kept his identity hidden. So how did she know? He replied with carefully chosen words. "Thank you. I appreciate the feedback." Then he closed the chat and returned to work. But June wasn't finished. The next morning, he found a longer message waiting. "You remind me of someone who changed my life years ago. Someone who built quietly, someone who wasn't afraid to reinvent himself. People like you. You can't stay invisible forever." Evan leaned back in his chair, jaw tightening slightly. How much did she know? Where was she getting her information from? Why did her words feel too pointed, too specific? He typed a short response. "I prefer to stay private. Thanks again." He expected that to be the end of it. It wasn't. That night, while he packed orders, another message came. "Privacy is good, but sometimes isolation hides you from opportunities. You've built something valuable, Evan. Don't shrink from the world." His chest tightened. He hadn't given her his name. Not anywhere. Not on the website, not in any email signature. His business was registered under a brand, not a personal identity. How did she know? He read the message 3 times, heartbeat steady but alert. This wasn't admiration. This wasn't harmless curiosity. This was someone watching, too closely, too confidently, too comfortably. He typed slowly, "How do you know who I am?" There was no reply. Not for hours, not until midnight. Then, finally, "You're not as hidden as you think." The words chilled him, not because they were threatening, but because they felt true. People saw more than he realized. People noticed more than he expected. And people like June, observant, sharp, strangely attuned, were dangerous in ways he didn't yet understand. The next morning, Evan woke up early and went for a walk to clear his head. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, and the streets were quiet. But his thoughts weren't. His life was growing faster. His business was becoming more visible, and the more he succeeded, the more he attracted attention, wanted or not. He returned home, sat at his desk, and tried to brush off the uneasy feeling. Maybe she guessed his name from an email address. Maybe she connected clues from shipping labels. Maybe it wasn't as strange as it felt, but deep down he knew better. June wasn't guessing. She knew. And she wanted him to know that she knew. 3 days passed without another message, and for a moment Evan allowed himself to relax. Maybe it was just a strange interaction. Maybe she was simply intuitive. Maybe she wasn't a threat. He wanted to believe that, but then came the message that shifted everything. It arrived at 3:14 p.m., just as Evan finished updating his inventory. I can help you grow. I know the people you're competing against. I know the market you're stepping into, and trust me, you're not prepared for what comes next. He stared at the words. Pulse steady but cold. Prepared for what? Competition he hadn't seen yet. People who weren't happy with his rise? Or someone like Daniel, another person who saw his silence as weakness? Evan replied, I didn't ask for help. June responded instantly, but you need it. No, he typed. I don't. A pause. Then, you think privacy will protect you. It won't. It only delays the inevitable. The inevitable? He replied. Her answer came seconds later. People notice success, even the quiet kind. Evan's jaw clenched. What do you want? He typed. Her reply came quickly. A conversation. He didn't answer. June sent another message. You're not the only one building silently, but the difference is I don't build alone. And you shouldn't either. Evan stood, pacing the room. His mind was sharp, calculating, searching for the angle. People don't reach out like this without motive. People don't push for conversations unless they see something they want to extract. Was she like Daniel? Was she watching his industry? Was she a competitor trying to get inside information? Or was she something entirely different? Her final message of the day came hours later. You're stronger than you realize, Evan. But strength without strategy breaks. Talk to me before someone else reaches you first, someone else. The words lingered. Someone else? Who? A competitor? A former coworker? A bitter customer? Another envious cousin? Or something deeper? That night, he barely slept. It wasn't fear keeping him awake. It was awareness, the awareness that his quiet rise was no longer invisible. Someone was paying attention, someone with intelligence, someone with insight, someone with intent. And whether she was a threat, an opportunity, or something in between, June wasn't going away. Evan woke up the next morning with a tightness in his chest, a mix of alertness and unease that clung to him like fog. He checked his business dashboard, reviewed orders, updated inventory, but the weight of June's last message lingered in his mind. Talk to me before someone else reaches you first. He hated how those words echoed. They felt like a warning, or a threat, or a truth he hadn't yet understood. But he refused to be shaken. He had worked too hard to let a stranger invade his focus, so he pushed the thoughts aside and buried himself in his work. That had always been his refuge, his sanctuary, the one place where fear had no room to breathe, but silence doesn't erase danger. It only delays it. By afternoon, more orders arrived, steady, reliable, comforting. He packed boxes, printed labels, and dropped everything off at the post office. He kept his head down. He avoided unnecessary conversation. He moved efficiently, mechanically, but just as he was leaving, he felt eyes on him. Someone stood near the door, watching him. A woman, early 30s, dark hair tied back, sharp eyes, noticed everything. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She just watched him walk past. Evan's heart thumped once, heavy. He didn't know her, but something about her stare felt familiar. Too familiar, like the kind of person who knew more than she should. He didn't look back. He went straight to his car, started the engine, and drove home with his thoughts swirling like storm clouds. By the time he got home, another message was waiting for him, from June. "Did you get my hint?" He froze. He typed, "What hint?" Her reply came fast. "You saw her." Evan sat back slowly. Saw who? Did she mean the woman at the post office? How would she know that? He typed, "Explain." "You're not working in the shadows anymore," she wrote. "People are beginning to notice your shipments, your growth, your patterns. She's one of them." Evan felt his pulse throb at the base of his throat. "Who is she?" he asked. June replied, "Someone who wants what you have. Someone who's trying to understand your supply chain. Someone who's been following your progress longer than I have." He stared at the screen, tension tightening every muscle in his body. "How do you know this?" he asked. This time June didn't answer quickly. It took several minutes before her message appeared. "Because I used to work with her." Evan's breath hitched. "Work with her?" he wrote back. June continued. "She's from a group of online sellers who monitor rising competition. They track new brands. They analyze them. If something looks promising, they copy it." His stomach dropped. "Copy? My products?" he asked. "Not just your products," June wrote. "Your entire strategy." He clenched his jaw. He had built everything from scratch: his branding, his system, his funnel, his packaging, his customer path. He had protected it with silence. He had fought through sabotage, envy, manipulation, interference, and now someone wanted to take it? "Why me?" he typed. June answered immediately, "Because you're growing faster than you realize, and you're doing it alone, which makes you vulnerable." Evan closed his eyes. Vulnerable. He had always known that working quietly came with risks. He avoided attention to protect his dream. But he never considered the possibility that success, even silent success, could be tracked. "Why are you telling me this, Ian?" he asked. June's reply was simple. "Because I respect builders. The real ones. And you're real." Evan swallowed hard. "Tell me who she is," he wrote. "I can't," June replied. "Not yet. But I can tell you this. She's already tried to reverse engineer your process. She's already pulling your product details, and she's planning to release an imitation brand in the next few weeks." Evan gripped the edge of his desk. He felt heat rise in his chest. Not fear this time, but anger. Not loud anger, not reckless anger, controlled anger, the kind that comes from being pushed too far for too long. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. June answered, "Because I know what it's like to build something alone while people try to take it from you." Evan stared at her words, trying to decide whether she was sincere or just strategic. People never helped without motive. Not in his experience. Not in this world. "What do you want from me?" he typed. It was the question he had been avoiding. This time June didn't respond quickly. The 3 dots flickered on the screen for nearly a full minute. Finally she answered, "A partnership." Evan closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. He didn't trust partnerships. He didn't trust handshakes. He didn't trust promises. Daniel had proven that collaborators with bad intentions could destroy years of work with a single lie. But June wasn't Daniel. She wasn't careless. She wasn't loud. She wasn't reckless. She was strategic, calculated, observant, and she knew things she shouldn't know. "Why me?" he typed again. "Because you have potential," she replied, "and potential without protection gets eaten alive." He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. She wasn't wrong. He had been working alone for so long he forgot the world outside was watching. He forgot competitors studied patterns. He forgot people took advantage of silence, but partnering with June felt dangerous, too dangerous. "What if I say no?" he asked. June's reply was instant. "Then someone else will approach you, and they won't ask. They'll just take." Evan's pulse quickened. This wasn't a threat, it was a prediction, and something in him knew she was right. He typed, "I need time." June replied, "You have 3 weeks before she launches her imitation. After that, your brand becomes a battlefield." Evan stared at the message, his mind racing. 3 weeks. 3 weeks before someone tried to steal everything he had built in the dark. 3 weeks before his silence became a weakness instead of a strength. 3 weeks before he faced a war he didn't see coming. And June was offering help. Help with a price he didn't yet understand. He closed the chat, stood up, and walked to the window. The sky outside was dim. The air felt thick. And for the first time since his journey began, he realized he wasn't just building a dream, he was protecting it from predators. Evan didn't sleep that night. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling while June's words replayed in his mind like a slow, steady drumbeat. You have 3 weeks before she launches her imitation. 3 weeks, a deadline, a warning, a countdown to an attack he hadn't prepared for. He got out of bed before sunrise, brewed strong coffee, and sat at his desk with a notebook. He needed clarity, strategy, direction. Silence had been his shield for so long, but now it might become his weakness. He wrote one question at the top of the page. What am I protecting? His business, his brand, his income, or something deeper? As he stared at the words, he realized the truth. He wasn't protecting a business. He was protecting the version of himself he fought to become. Every late night, every rebuilt plan, every moment of discipline, every piece of himself he sharpened in the dark. Someone wanted to take it, copy it, claim it. He wasn't going to let that happen. Not again. Not ever. By noon, he reviewed every part of his operations: suppliers, shipping schedules, product details, cost margins, customer patterns. If someone was analyzing him, he needed to be 10 steps ahead. Silence alone wouldn't save him this time. While going through his customer feedback forms, he noticed something strange, a familiar name. The woman he saw at the post office she had purchased from him weeks earlier, left no message, asked no questions, gave no clues, a normal buyer on the surface. But now that June had confirmed she was watching him, every detail felt like a signal. Evan checked the shipping records, the timestamps, the delivery notes. Everything was clean, too clean. He exhaled slowly. This wasn't paranoia. This was awareness. Someone was reverse engineering him. And if June was telling the truth, he was running out of time. He finally sent June a message. What exactly does she know? June responded within seconds, as if she had been waiting. She knows your product materials. She knows your general price range. She's trying to figure out your production cost. Evan typed, how? She has contacts. She gets information from suppliers. She watches delivery patterns. You're not as invisible as you believe. He clenched his jaw. What else? June paused before replying. She thinks you're inexperienced. She thinks you're alone. That makes you a soft target. Evan felt heat flare in his chest. Anger, controlled and steady. I'm not soft, he typed. I know, she replied. That's why I reached out. Evan rubbed his forehead. He didn't trust her, but he didn't doubt her either. Her messages weren't emotional. They weren't manipulative. They were factual, tactical, cold in the way truth often was. He typed, what does she want from me? June responded, to beat you before you become a threat. He stared at the words, breathing slow. Not destroy, beat. This wasn't personal. It was strategic. A competitor saw potential in him. A competitor didn't like that potential. A competitor wanted to eliminate him before he could grow. For the first time, Evan understood something crucial. In silence, he had become a threat without realizing it. That night, he prepared his defenses. He updated his website, strengthened his branding, improved product uniqueness, secured supplier agreements, revised copywriting, enhanced packaging elements. No competitor could replicate easily. He didn't panic. He didn't crumble. He just worked. But hours later, as rain tapped against his window, his phone buzzed. A new message from June. She's accelerating. You have less time than you think. Evan frowned. What do you mean? June replied. She contacted one of your suppliers this morning. Evan's breath caught. Which one? He typed. I can't say, June answered. But she asked for product specs, prices, shipping terms, exactly the information she needs to imitate your process. Evan stood from his chair. His silence hadn't protected him from everything. It protected his plans, but not his patterns. He typed, Why are you telling me all this? What do you gain? June replied, I gain an ally, someone who plays the long game like I do. And if I don't play your game? Evan asked. June's answer was brutally honest. Then someone else will take you down, and you'll face it alone. He stared at the message, pulse steady but loud. She wasn't lying, she wasn't flattering him, she wasn't manipulating him emotionally. This was business. Cold, sharp, survival-based business. Evan walked to the window and looked out at the dark streets below. His reflection stared back, older, harder, more aware than the boy who once begged for validation. He typed one final message. What's the first step? June replied instantly. Meet me. Evan froze. No, he wrote back. Not yet. Then what do you propose? She replied. He inhaled. If he couldn't trust her fully, he could at least control the terms. Give me proof, he typed. Show me she's targeting me. Show me what she knows. Then I'll talk. June's answer came after a long pause. Very well. You'll have proof by tomorrow night. Where? He asked. I'll send it. Why help me? He typed again. June's final answer came slowly. Because you remind me of who I was before someone tried to erase everything I built, and because I refuse to watch another builder fall. Evan read the message twice. It didn't feel like flattery. It felt like experience. Painful, heavy, real. He placed his phone down. Tomorrow night he would know the truth. Tomorrow night he would see his enemy clearly. Tomorrow night the quiet war around his business would become visible. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't the same man who once broke under sabotage. He had been rebuilt by pressure, sharpened by silence, hardened by betrayal. And now he was ready. Ready for the person watching. Him. Ready for the imitation. Ready for June's proof. Ready for whatever war came next. Because when the world tried to crush him in the dark, he learned to stand without witnesses, and tomorrow he would discover exactly who was bold enough to come for him. The next evening arrived slower than usual, each hour dragging with a quiet heaviness that settled in Evan's chest. The sun slipped below the horizon, leaving his apartment in a dim blue glow. He sat at his desk, laptop open but untouched. His phone lay beside it, silent, unmoving, waiting for June, waiting for the truth, waiting for whatever proof she promised, proof of the person trying to copy him, watch him, undermine him. By 9:17 p.m., his nerves had settled into a cold, steady tension. No panic, no fear, just readiness. At 9:23 p.m., his phone buzzed a single message from June. It's time. Attached was a file. Evan exhaled slowly, clicked it open, and felt his pulse shift from steady to sharp. It wasn't a document. It wasn't a message. It wasn't a threat. It was a video, a grainy, slightly shaky recording like footage captured secretly, quietly from a distance. The scene made his breath catch. He recognized it instantly, a warehouse, a shipping facility, the same one he used to drop off bulk orders every Friday. And standing near the back loading dock was the woman he saw at the post office. Dark hair, sharp eyes, confident posture. She spoke to a man, someone Evan didn't know. But he knew the tone they spoke in. He knew the way people sounded when discussing him without saying his name. June added a text message below the video. Turn up the volume, Evan did. The woman's voice cut through the static. He's growing faster than expected. Quiet type, private. Thinks nobody sees him. The man beside her nodded. You have his product? She lifted a box. His packaging, his branding. He felt the blood drain from his face. I analyzed everything, she continued. Materials, pricing, design. He's smart but not protected. I can replicate it easily, improve it even. The man smirked. And then, she shrugged, then we take his market. He'll disappear before he even realizes what happened. Evan's hands curled into fists. It wasn't fear now. It wasn't uncertainty. It was fury. Quiet, controlled, precise. Who is she? Evan whispered to himself. As if hearing him, June sent another message. Her name is Mara. Mara. The name felt sharp, cold. Evan typed quickly, "How did you get this footage?" June responded, "I used to work with her. She doesn't know subtlety. She repeats patterns. She trusts the wrong people. I slipped into the shadows she ignored." He stared at the video again, watching Mara gesture confidently with his product in her hands, watching her outline her imitation plan like she was dissecting a blueprint. She already contacted multiple suppliers, June continued. She's close, very close. If she gets one more detail, she'll launch. Evan swallowed hard. "How long do I have?" he asked. June replied, "Less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Shorter than the previous 3-week warning? Shorter than he hoped? Shorter than he was prepared for." Evan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his hands over his face. Everything he built, every hour, every sacrifice, every quiet victory was hanging in a balance held by a stranger named Mara, a stranger who didn't know him, didn't respect him, didn't fear him, a stranger who thought he was invisible. Evan typed, "What do I do?" The 3 dots flickered. Then June replied, "You fight differently this time." He frowned. "What does that mean?" June responded, "You've been defending your dream in silence, but you can't win a war by hiding. If you stay quiet, she'll crush you. If you stay alone, she'll copy you. If you stay still, she'll outrun you." Evan frowned at the screen. "So you're saying I have to go public?" "No," June wrote. "Never go public. But you need a strategy beyond silence." Evan stared at her words long and hard. Silence had protected him. Silence had sharpened him. Silence had rebuilt him. But she was right. Silence wouldn't win a war. "What's the strategies?" he asked. June replied, "You need to strengthen what she can't copy." "And what's that?" Evan asked. Her response came instantly. "You." He blinked. June continued, "Mara can copy your product, your packaging, your pricing. She can imitate your materials, your suppliers, your structure, but she can't copy your innovation. She can't copy your instinct. She can't copy the part of you that builds instead of repeats." Evan sat still, absorbing her words. "You need to create something new," June added, "a product upgrade, a version 2, something she doesn't know about yet." Evan exhaled. "Something she'll never see coming," he murmured. "Exactly," June replied. His mind began racing, not with panic, but with ideas, concepts, improvements he had thought about but hadn't implemented, things he put off, things he could build quickly, quietly, effectively. He typed, "I have an idea." June responded, "Good. Keep it to yourself, even with me." Evan paused. "You don't want to know?" he asked. "Knowing puts you at risk," she answered. "If I'm ever compromised, she could use it against you, protect it, guard it, build it alone." Evan felt something shift inside him. Trust wasn't what June wanted. Loyalty wasn't what she demanded. Dependence wasn't what she asked for. She wanted him to stay strong, alone, but smarter. He respected that. "But," June added, "you'll need support. You can't defend your entire brand by yourself." Evan's brows knit. "What kind of support?" "Someone who understands business protection," she answered. "Someone who knows market analysis, loopholes, tactics, someone who can track competitors." "So, you?" Evan asked slowly. June replied, "Yes, but not as a partner." He frowned. "Then what?" June's answer came like a soft strike. "As a strategist," Evan exhaled slowly. "A strategist, not a partner, not a collaborator, not someone who wanted ownership, someone who guided." He typed, "What do you get out of this?" June responded, "What I always wanted. Someone worthy to build beside someday. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. Right now, I just don't want to see you lose." Her honesty hit harder than a threat would have. Evan sat back. He thought of Lila, who once loved the idea of him, not his rise. He thought of Daniel, who sabotaged him when he rejected control. He thought of Mark, who confused envy with concern. He thought of Mara, the stranger trying to erase him before he could grow. June felt different, not safe, not harmless, but aligned with ambition, aligned with survival, aligned with the silent hunger he carried in his chest. Evan typed, "I'll build the upgrade." "Good," she replied. "And while you do, I'll monitor Mara." Evan nodded to himself even though she couldn't see it. Then another message from June appeared. "And Evan?" "Yes," he typed. "Don't let anger drive you," she wrote. "Let strategy drive you. Anger burns fast. Strategy burns forever." Evan closed his eyes, breathing in deeply. She was right. He opened his notebook and began to sketch. Ideas flowed, designs sharpened, concepts formed. The next version of his product, the version Mara would never see coming, took shape in the quiet hours of the night. Sometime after midnight, as he scribbled the last outline, another realization struck him, one that sent a chill down his spine. Mara wasn't working alone. She couldn't be. No single competitor moved that smoothly. No single person tracked that precisely. No single operator infiltrated supply chains that quickly. And if she wasn't working alone, then Evan wasn't facing one enemy. He was facing a network. And the war he was stepping into was bigger than anything he had imagined. Evan didn't waste a single hour. The moment he realized the size of the threat, he shifted gears internally, no longer just a builder, but a strategist. Every action became deliberate. Every move became calculated. Every detail mattered. He filled pages of his notebook with designs, upgrades, changes only he could create because they came from instinct, experience, and his own evolution. Mara could copy materials. She could imitate structures. But she couldn't imitate the growth inside him. She couldn't copy the fire that built his business in the dark. By sunrise, he had drafted something powerful, a new version, a better version, a version that wasn't just safer, it was untouchable. Still, he knew building an upgrade wasn't enough. If Mara truly had a group behind her, a network of copycats who operated quietly and strategically, then this wasn't just a competition, it was a war. And wars required more than creativity. They required vision, discipline, the willingness to change before you're forced to. At noon, June sent another message. "How far are you?" Evan replied. "Close, I have a working draft." "Good," June wrote. "Now you need to secure it." Evan frowned. "How?" June's answer came instantly. "Registration." He blinked. "I thought you said don't go public." "You're not going public," she wrote. "You're protecting yourself. Register the design, the unique features, the elements she doesn't know about. It creates legal ground. She can copy the old version, but she won't be able to touch this new one." Evan understood immediately. Intellectual property. "Exactly," June replied. "Silent protection, the best kind." He nodded to himself. He had been too quiet for too long. Silence protected his early growth, but now silence needed to evolve into strategy. He spent the next 2 days preparing documents, taking photos, writing descriptions, making diagrams, everything he needed to create a distinct wall around his new product, an invisible barrier Mara couldn't cross. During that time, June sent occasional short messages. "She's accelerating." "She visited another supplier today." "She's frustrated she can't identify your upgrades." "She knows you're moving faster than she expected." Evan absorbed the updates calmly, not with fear, not with anxiety, with awareness. Awareness sharpened him. On the third night, as he worked through a final prototype, he received an unexpected call from his father. "Evan?" The voice sounded stronger, clearer, not broken like before. "Dad, everything okay?" "I've been thinking about what you told me," his father said. "About building something, about learning something new. I want to try." Evan's chest tightened, not with stress, but with something deeper, something softer. "Try what?" he asked gently. I want to learn the online world, his father said. I'm tired of feeling useless. I'm tired of waiting for someone to hire me. You helped me. I want to help myself. Evan closed his eyes. For the first time in years, his father wasn't dismissing dreams. He wasn't shutting down ambition. He wasn't belittling new paths. He was embracing them. I'll teach you, Evan said quietly. His father laughed softly. You don't have to, son. You've already done enough. I want to, Evan replied. Really? There was a pause on the line. A warm pause. A healing one. Then his father spoke again, voice low but steady. I'm proud of you, Evan. The words hit him harder than anything Mara could ever do. He wasn't the boy who needed validation anymore. He wasn't the dreamer begging the world to believe in him. He wasn't the man crushed by sabotage and envy. He was someone building a future strong enough to lift his family. After the call ended, he sat in silence, letting the emotions settle. Not overwhelming, but grounding. He realized something important. He wasn't fighting only for himself anymore. He was fighting for the people he loved, for the life he wanted, for the person he was becoming. And that made him stronger than any network of imitators. The next morning, June sent another message. Check your email. Evan opened it instantly. Inside was a folder, dozens of screenshots, images, nearly 100 lines of analysis, proof of Mara's involvement, proof of her network, proof of her plans. June wrote, she's working with 3 others, a small team. They copy promising businesses, release cheaper versions, and flood the market. She's done it before, twice. Both victims disappeared within months. Evan scrolled through everything: supplier inquiries, competitor breakdowns, product comparisons, digital footprints. Mara was smart, strategic, fast, ruthless. But she made one mistake. She underestimated him. He typed, "Why are you giving me this much information?" June replied. "Because you're not her past target. You're different. You evolve. She doesn't know how to handle someone who changes faster than she can track." Evan leaned back, absorbing it all. "So what now?" "You finish your upgrade," June wrote. "You secure it legally, and then you prepare for her release." "Prepare how?" Evan asked. June responded. With silence, he frowned. "I thought silence wasn't enough." "Silence alone isn't," she clarified, "but silence plus strategy? That's unstoppable. While she copies your old version, you'll drop the new one. Better, superior, protected." Evan understood she wasn't telling him to hide. She was telling him to strike at the perfect moment. And suddenly, everything clicked. Mara's team wasn't powerful because they copied. They were powerful because their victims didn't evolve. Victims stayed still. Victims hesitated. Victims froze when attacked. Evan wouldn't freeze. He would move so fast they'd choke on his dust. That night, while working through the last finishing touches, he heard another message from June. "Just be careful." "Of what?" he typed. Her answer was slow. Uncharacteristically slow. People like Mara don't stop easily. When they can't copy, they escalate. Evan read that line 3 times. Escalate how? June didn't respond immediately. Finally, she sent, "Pressure, manipulation, undercutting, lies. She'll try anything to get inside your process. She'll try to learn your next move. She might even contact you directly." "She doesn't know me," Evan typed. "She will," June replied. "You're on her radar, and she never lets go once she chooses a target." Evan inhaled deeply. He had survived sabotage from Daniel. He had survived envy from Mark. He had survived guilt from Lila. He had survived doubt from his past. But this was different. This wasn't emotional. This wasn't personal. This wasn't family. This was business warfare. And for the first time, Evan realized something that should have terrified him, but instead steadied him. He was good at war, silent war, strategic war, the kind fought in shadows with plans instead of punches. June sent one final message that night. "Finish the upgrade, Evan. When she hits you, you'll hit back harder." Evan stared at those words. Then he closed the chat, closed the laptop, closed his doubts. And he began working on the final version of the product, the one Mara would never see coming, the one she could never copy, the one that would redefine everything. But as he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling creeping into his chest. If Mara escalated, this fight might go far beyond business. It might reach places he wasn't prepared for, people he cared about, parts of his life he thought were safe. And deep down, he realized, he wasn't just preparing a product, he was preparing for a battle that could change everything. Evan didn't know it yet, but the fight coming his way would not arrive with noise. It would come quietly, through messages, through silence, through the thin spaces where doubt grows. For days he worked on his upgraded product, shaping every detail with precision. The design was sharper, the materials stronger, the features more advanced. It wasn't just a product anymore, it was a shield. June kept updating him. Mara is getting impatient. She can't figure out your angle. She knows you're building something new. She's hunting for information. Evan ignored everything except the work in front of him. That was his strength. That was his weapon. That was the part no one could copy. But one night, as he finished tightening a final design element, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, until he saw the message. "We should talk. No name, no emoji, no introduction, just pressure." He replied simply, "Who is this?" A moment later, "Someone who knows what you're doing, someone who's been watching your little business grow." Evan froze. Mara, he could feel it, the tone, the confidence, the arrogance of someone who expected fear. He typed, "Say your name, 3 dots, then Mara." Evan set the phone down, steadying himself. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't intimidated. He had been expecting this moment even before June warned him. Mara sent another message. "You're making this harder than it has to be. I'm offering you something simple. Work with me, share your strategy, and we both win." Evan exhaled. "You aren't looking for partnership. You're looking for control." "Control?" she wrote. "No, Ty, efficiency. We duplicate your process, scale faster, split profits. You're good, Evan, but you're small. Alone, you need a team." He replied, "I built this alone on purpose. And that's why it's fragile," she shot back. He smirked. She had no idea how much he had already strengthened. "I know what you're doing," Evan typed. "You're trying to copy my old version. It won't work." The pause that followed was long. Too long. Then Mara wrote, "I don't need your new version. I just need to beat your timing." "That won't happen," he replied. "You think so?" she wrote. "I launch next week." Evan leaned back. Next week. She was faster than he thought, but still slower than him. He typed, "So do I." This time, the pause was even longer. Then Mara wrote, "Big mistake." Evan locked his phone and didn't reply. He didn't need a back and forth. He didn't need to explain. He didn't need her approval. He was ready. The next morning, Evan sent the final documents to secure his new design. Legal protection, brand protection, product protection, everything strengthened, everything locked. June messaged, "She knows you're close. Don't slip." "I won't," Evan replied. "You worked fast," she wrote. "Faster than I expected." "That's what pressure does, Higinina," he answered. June sent a final message. "When you launch, don't announce anything. Don't post. Don't brag. Just hit the market like a shadow." He nodded to himself. That was exactly his style. That night, for the first time in months, Evan slept calmly. 3 days before launch, Mara tried again. "Evan, let's talk like adults. You don't know what you're doing. Your product won't beat mine. You need me." Evan didn't respond. The silence frustrated her. She tried calling. He let it ring. She sent a voice note. Sharp, tense, slightly angry. He didn't listen. The next day, June messaged, "She's rattled. You're inside her head. That's good." Evan exhaled slowly. He wasn't driven by ego. He wasn't driven by revenge. He wasn't driven by pride. He was driven by survival. Quiet, steady survival. 2 days before launch, June sent a different kind of message. You should know something. What? Evan asked. Mara's team is bigger than we thought. They've done this to dozens of small brands. You're the first one they couldn't track fully. Why? He typed. Because you're silent, June replied. Your silence is unpredictable. Evan understood. Silence had shifted from weakness to weapon. Launch day arrived quietly, no announcements, no social media, no celebration, just a button click, a single quiet update to the website, product version 2, live. Within an hour, the orders began rolling in, then more, then more. Customers noticed the enhancements immediately. Emails poured in, positive messages, reviews praising the upgrade. He didn't respond. He didn't post. He didn't brag. He just kept working. At noon, his phone buzzed. Mara, you launched? No response. You think this changes anything? Still nothing. I'll crush you. Evan set his phone aside, calm as water. Later that night, June messaged him. She launched hers too. I know, Evan replied. She copied everything you had, except what you improved. Evan smiled slightly. That was the plan. Then June wrote something that surprised him. She's panicking. How do you know? He asked. Because she hasn't made a sale in hours, June wrote. Your version is blowing hers out of the water. Evan's chest felt warm, not proud, not boastful, just validated. June sent one final message. You won, Evan. He typed, It's not a competition. June replied, It was. You just didn't start it. He stared at those words for a long moment. He wasn't built for war. But he learned how to fight when the world forced him to. And he won not because he was loud, but because he was disciplined, focused, silent, strategic. The next morning, Evan received one final message from Mara. No insults, no threats, no confidence, just one sentence. You should have worked with me. Evan replied, No, you should have worked on yourself. He blocked her. Then he sat back, breathed deeply, and looked around his small apartment. Nothing had changed physically. Same walls, same table, same quiet room, but he had changed. He wasn't the man who shared dreams too early. He wasn't the man who trusted the wrong people. He wasn't the man who broke under betrayal. He had become the man who silently built, silently defended, and silently won. June sent a final message that evening. Congratulations. You survived what others couldn't. Evan typed, I didn't survive. I grew. And June replied, That's why you made it. He closed the chat, closed his laptop, and looked out the window at the city below. He had learned the truth the hard way. You don't tell people your goals, you show them your results, and the world has no choice but to listen.